contrast to the daily life in the communist Poland, my childhood summers were blissful and full of adventures. I explored the city's landscape and was an avid public transport user with my grandfather. We only had 2 TV channels, and animations for the kids were for 20 minutes a day at 7 p.m, so staying in and binging was not an option. Summers were also for preserving fruits and veggies for the winter time. We didn't have access to too many freshly produced foods during the 80s when the colder months hit, so preserves were the answer to the lack of fresh foods. I remember the summers were always wonderfully warm in the range of 23-25 degrees. If we experienced days when the temperature reached 32 degrees, that was very rare and considered an unexpected heat wave. The vegetation around the city during my formative years was always colorful and blossoming. When it rained, the soil could retain the rain in its embrace. Nowadays, the soil is too hard and too dry to hold the precious water in its grip. Desertification happens when the land loses the capacity to sustain plant and animal life. Desertification is shaped by human activities that include deforestation, fire, poor grazing management, tillage, and inappropriate use of irrigation. To avoid desertification, we need to keep water in the landscape and only allow it to live through plant growth. Soil is a precious asset and needs to be protected and improved. To improve soil, we need to conserve soil moisture and nutrition to build its health. With improved soil, we could grow more and better quality foods while investing time and energy into building local food co-ops. The southeast part of London, where I live, is a pretty green area of the city, with smaller and larger parks such as Greenwich Park or Oxley Woods. When London is boiling hot, the city's outskirts are usually slightly cooler than the city centre. Less density of buildings and more open spaces help to keep the temperature lower than in densely developed central London. The building I live in is positioned on the top of the hill, which also helps with the air movement and breeze, which is always welcome during hot and unbearable days. Despite the slightly cooler temperature in my part of London, the soil is still visibly in agony and dying from thirst. Although London is a pretty green city, it is still a city with heavy traffic, modern and old buildings squeezed in every possible free space, trapping the heat and adding to the heat island effect. In my adult life, I have always considered fall my favorite season. The vibrant, colorful leaves always make me reflective and filled with new, creative energy. The crispy weather adds spring to my daily activities. After the heat of the summer, it is so refreshing to finally embrace the cooler season. Towards the end of the fall, the leaves turn from colorful to brown and dry out, symbolizing winter's arrival. However, this summer I noticed that leaves, which should be in their prime during the summer, suddenly turned brown and dry. I look around my surroundings and I couldn't help but worry. My mind set off on an anxiety journey. How long can we last without the rain and substantial water reserve? How will my family cope? What is my emergency plan? Do I need one? How quickly? We all know that life dies without water, and spaces and places become deserted. People, together with the animal kingdom, migrate someplace else, if there is a place to migrate to. In my head, I plan how I can get myself and my family ready for the food shortages. I daydream of being food secure and self-sufficient, able to be independent enough to protect my kids from the Mad Max future. Because this is the future we are heading towards, right? Since fear over the change the current environmental crisis will impose on our lives is forever present in my life, this fear at times motivates me, while other times paralyzes my actions. This time around, my fear is leading me to take action, and I can see and feel how everything on our wonderful, amazing, generous planet is connected to each other. In the process of this connectivity, I have become more respectful of water and soil, which I took for granted for far too long. Without food, we can go on for about 3 weeks, but we can only survive 3 days without water, so water is truly the key to our survival. We not only need water to drink, but we also need massive amounts of water to grow food. Since the rise of the global temperature, vapor concentrations, clouds, precipitation patterns, and stream flow patterns, which are directly linked to the water cycle, have been heavily affected. With increased temperatures, more water evaporates into the air and sooner or later returns to the surface as rain or snow. When evaporation intensifies, the soil dries out. However, when the rain finally comes, much of the water runs off the ground into rivers and streams, and the soil continues to be dry. Of course, massive systematic changes must be implemented on the governmental and corporate levels to make significant and swift progress. However, individuals can still help to keep the water in the soil while at the same time pressuring the central and local governments to take consolidated direct action to retain moisture in the soil. Use less water by taking shorter showers instead of baths, turning off the tap while brushing teeth or washing dishes. Fixing existing leaks around the house could save liters of water a year, which could go somewhere else instead. Possibly change the toilet from a flushing toilet to a compostable one, and I don't mean the old-fashioned one. Changing your existing shower head to a low-flow one. Use mulch to help your plants and flowers retain water. Setting up a rainwater collection system if you can. Learning what plants in your local area can help maintain health and moist soil while at the same time protecting places, spaces and property from rainfall. I use mulch for my plants. I cut down my 2-a-day showers to 1 a day, and I also cut down on the length of my showers. I stopped brushing my teeth while in the shower, and I turn the water on and off when I do the dishes. These are the simplest, the easiest and the cheapest ways to help preserve water resources and sources. I'm doing my bit. I'm constantly adapting and adjusting. Many others do the same or are forced to do the same out of necessity. However, without solid governmental push and systematic corporate change, my actions might be too little, too late. When I started working on this documentary, I had no idea that Europe was going to go through the worst drought in 500 years or so. It is not a great spot to be in. It is pretty scary. The heat is physically painful, but also the knowledge that we might run out of water and we have to preserve water, every single drop of it, is something that I've been worried about for a very long time, and actually my anxieties and my worries are materializing at the moment. The question is, what are we going to do about this collectively and individually? We all have choices, so I hope that we all, again, collectively and individually can make the right choices to save the water and save the future for the next generations.